Hey, good morning. This is Jake at Habitat Solutions. I put a video together throughout the entire growing season of 2021 about my experience with roller crimping rye and trying to grow soybeans in them, and showing you a lot of updates on how it worked and the pluses and minuses and the things I learned along the way. This is a bit of a lengthy video, but I did a lot of updates and got into a lot of details to help explain to a number of you that are thinking about going the no-till route. I've owned this farm for over 40 years, and one thing I've tried to really be good at in the last 2 decades is to understand my soil and learn when the soil works the best for planting seeds. I have a heavy clay base here in most areas. So there are times it's too wet, there are times it becomes rock hard, and that can present challenges when you're trying to utilize the roller crimping no-till method. I hope you enjoy this video. I learned a ton, and I really think this will help a lot of other people that have similar soils and similar conditions. Good luck and good habitat. This is my first year analysis of roller crimped rye for no-till soybeans at the Habitat Solutions 360 Proving Grounds. In the second week of September of 2020, I broadcast 100 pounds per acre of a rootstock cereal rye throughout my standing soybean. I really enjoy hunting my food plots, and soybeans are a big part of that. Last fall, I had great soybean growth, and there's a video of the nice 10-point I took in early October. Back in late April, I took this photo during turkey season. This shows you some of the areas I missed last fall when seeding the rye. This gives you an idea of just how thick the soybeans were and explains why I missed a few spots with the rye. I've always tilled when I planted my soybeans. In 2019, I had all my soybean fields drilled in late May, with great to poor success depending on the field location. But this year, I wanted to try something different. So I'm going to show you 3 different locations that I roller crimped rye. First, field number 1, standing green rye, broadcasted the seed, then roller crimped. Field number 2, sprayed with glyphosate first and terminated, then broadcast soybeans and roller crimped 2 weeks later. Field number 3, standing green rye, I broadcast the soybeans and then roller crimped that. This is what the rootstock rye looked like in the soybeans in late October of 2020. And here I am in the soybeans and rye in mid-December of 2020. Then mid-February, deep snow, but still lots of soybeans. Mid-March, the rootstock rye is growing and the beans are gone. And here's a close-up. Early March of 21, I brush hogged the sorghum plot screen. You can see it there laying down with the rootstock rye coming up. On May 25th of this year, I made a trip to Best Outdoors in Rockford, Michigan to pick up my new Packer Max roller crimper and Coulter Packer combo. It was great to see Lincoln again, and he gave me a tour of his facility. On the 27th, I took delivery of my new Yanmar tractor, so things were looking up for my new process. Hey, this is Jake, Habitat Solutions. I just wanted to show you my development and progress of the rootstock rye that I overseeded into standing soybeans. And you can see it's all about 16, 18 inches tall right now, and it's looking really good. Now this is May 2nd of 2021. I overseeded this right around the 14th or 16th of September in 2020. No drill, just broadcast straight into standing soybeans, and Mother Nature and rain did its thing. I'm standing in my large destination field that I do a lot of my deer harvest in. A lot of my nice bucks here. And I overseeded this winter rye last September. Anyways, this is up above my head right now, so it is time to roll it. First off, I walked the field to make sure there weren't any fawns bedded in here, and sure enough, I jumped up 2 of them. I had a great combination of a rootstock rye and crimson clover well dispersed through the field. This is the roller crimper's maiden run. And even though I was new to it, I took my time and it seemed to be doing a real good job for me. I got out to do a little closer inspection, and both the rye and the crimson clover were crimped and terminated. You can see here it was doing a good job of rolling, crimping, and laying the rye right down on the ground. Here's another close-up where I go right through the crimson clover and last year's brassicas that were starting to flower. It rolled and crimped them with no problem. When you start roller crimping, you've got to have a plan. The last thing you want to do is go back against the direction you just rolled down. I had some places in this field where I missed the rye, so I came through, killed it, and just dissed it conventionally and planted. And sprayed everything with the liquid lime and the soil conditioner. And then you can see spots where I had the rye and it took right off and did really, really good. So that's all crimped and there's seed in there. So we'll get a really good real good feel for what works and what doesn't out in this field. Okay, see that kind of edge right there? That's where I traditionally dissed, seeded, cultipacked. And I'd say the soybeans are a good 18 to 24 inches. And then right here in front is where I roller crimped, and they're more at about 8 to 10 inches. So you can see the line over there too. This spot I missed when I was spreading rye last year, so it was bare ground this spring, and I dissed it and planted just so I'd have a really good example of till versus no till, and it's really clear what's going on. But the field's looking okay. This is the 24th of July. I still have a lot of growing left. If the deer can back off of it a little bit, I know it's going to be okay. But I came in here, it's amazing, like 3-4 days ago, and broadcast some cool season annuals in here, and you can see they are popping right up out of the ground because I've got such a good thatch here that I knew that was going to be my plan B. So I'm still going to have plenty of food in here, and it's going to be a great hunting season. So bring on fall, because the big bucks will be here. Field number 2, and we had our share of April snow showers. By late April, the wild plum were in full bloom. By mid-May of this year, a few days after the glide treatment, I also brush hogged about a 15-foot strip for conventional tillage to compare germination growth and to add some corn for structure. On May 28th, I went out spreading the seed throughout the terminated rye that I used glyphosate to kill a few weeks earlier. After broadcasting, I brought my tractor and roller crimper and started roller crimping the rye over the top of the seeds that I had just previously broadcast, and it seemed to work out real well. And this is the second pass in the terminated rye with my roller crimper. Hey, good morning everybody. Going to do a little update here on how my no-till soybean plantings have turned out. This field right here is looking pretty good. We're getting some deer browse, but not a ton of it. This field right here, I came in here about mid-May, and I sprayed glyphosate. The rye was starting to head out, and it was probably about 4.5, 5 feet tall. I sprayed glyphosate over it and killed it first. Then I broadcast the soybeans 2 weeks later and roller crimped them. Now these were dead brown rye, kind of different than what you see. This is the best field. I did it another different way with just the rye being green, and I'll take you to that field. And actually I did it on 2 different fields and didn't have near as good a luck. So this is by far the best soybean field with the no-till process, where I killed the rye first, then came in and broadcast the seed and roller crimped over the top of it. I'm pretty happy overall with how this field turned out. The tilled areas had faster germination with 40 to 50% better growth. You can see how much better the soybeans are in the area that was tilled. Out in the center of the field, they're still struggling. Before and during this experiment, we've had great rainfall and moisture amount. Here's an update on field number 3. With the slow random seed germination, this really allowed the deer to browse and stay ahead of the beans. What I found is a lot of the germination took 3 to 4 weeks, and with bedding on each side of this long soybean field, they just didn't stand a chance. It's nearing the end of July, so I'm going to go with Plan B in this field, and that's to overseed with brassicas, turnips, radishes, and crimson clover. A few sections of field number 3, I went ahead and brush hogged, ran my disc through, broadcast my seed, and then cultivated. One month later, on July 1st, the seed germination looks real good. 3 weeks later, what a difference rain makes. The soybeans mixed in with the corn, didn't skip a beat, and they're easily 24 to 30 inches tall. So what have I learned through this process? In heavy clay soils, minimal tillage isn't such a bad thing when using large seed plants like soybeans. So far, it has outperformed roller crimping no-till in each of my 3 test plots. Soybeans are a bit of a complex plant, especially in their early stages. So imagine the seed having to push its root into hard clay, untilled soil, while at the same time trying to push its leaves and stem up through roller crimped rye. And I think that contributed to the slow random germination and the smaller leaves and smaller plants, which ultimately affected my pod growth. Many of the soybeans seemed to struggle, germinated weeks after broadcasting, and grew tiny leaves appearing stunted. Other parts of the field had uniform, quicker germination, and the beans grew pretty good. The areas I conventionally disked, dragged, broadcast the seed, and cultipacked performed the best. They overcame deer browse and had healthier, taller plants with larger leaves. Don't assume there weren't deer browsing on those conventional planted beans, because that's where deer seem to spend most of their time. There were turkeys in there getting at them too. So it's definitely been a learning curve for me. But overall, they're doing pretty good. And these beans have been certified by Pepper as great deer food. I am right in the eastern end of the no-till food plot, the rye that I sprayed and killed. Then came back about 2 weeks later, broadcast the soybeans. Man, the mosquitoes are really bad this morning. And also came back and then roller crimped it. And this is by far my best performing field. So I just wanted to give you an update. It is August 16th, 2021. And you can see everything's growing pretty darn good out there. Any place you see corn is where I tilled around the outside edge to plant the corn and soybeans. And the truth is, inside of the areas where I tilled, the soybeans are doing the best. But out here in this field, they're doing pretty darn good too. The conventionally tilled areas in field number 1 are hiding pepper very well. It is August 17th and I'm in my large, long destination food plot directly north of the house. There's the house. About 130 yards of switchgrass and warm season grasses between the house and I, and about a 25 to 35 yard food plot. But what I want to show you is the soybeans have really struggled, and here we are, you know, mid-August, and these soybeans are like 6 to 8 inches tall at best, and they have been getting browsed pretty heavy. And so I came in here about 3 weeks ago and overseeded with brassicas, John Comp's Northwoods Whitetail Sweet Feast. A couple of places got a little heavy, but for the most part pretty good. But you can see the beans are really struggling. So no-till can be good in certain areas and certain soils, and not so hot in other places. But good thing I had the thatch and I could get the brassicas down, because I'm going to have some great food here. Okay, it's August 31st, 2021. And this is an update on my roller crimped rye bean field. It's done pretty good. I've overseeded some crimson clover along the edges and out into it here. You see, I'll kind of move in, you can see. So that's doing real good, and because of that, it's allowing the beans to grow. And I've got some bean pods on here. Pretty good bean pod growth. So it's not all lost. It's not as good as I was hoping, but it's not too bad either. So this is my first time since mid-June that I've been up around this cedar tree, which is my famous scrape tree. And what you'll see is there's a deer bed right there. And right over here, there's a deer bed right here. And look at the overhead cover. So don't let anybody tell you that they won't naturally get underneath overhead cover and bed. The truth is, fields number 1 and 2 are doing well, and I'm sure that they will provide lots of food for the local deer the remainder of this 2021 season. Field number 3 had a number of issues that rose to the top when trying the no-till roller crimped rye broadcast method. Large seeds, such as soybeans laying under crimped rye on a hard clay soil type, caused, in my opinion, a long drawn-out germination process. This allowed the deer to successfully overbrowse them, versus 90% of the seeds popping up in 2 or 3 days with conventional tillage practices. But I did feel that the thick mat of crimped rye would offer me an opportunity for a plan B by overseeding the cool season annuals, and I'd still have plenty of fall food. I've always been one to try different things with habitat and planting. I'm really glad I tried this roller crimping rye planting experiment. One more foliar feeding in early October and some heavy rains. Even field number 3 is looking pretty good. Unseasonably warm temperatures and poor wind directions kept me out of my best stands until mid-October. The first hunt in Field 1, mid-October 2021. The beans are dry, the rye, brassicas, and crimson clover have germinated great in the mowed paths and under the cedar scrape tree. There's 5 scrapes around it. Here's a close-up of the rye, brassicas, and crimson clover. They grew very well with that roller crimped rye as a thatch to hold moisture. You can see there was abundant deer activity on the roller crimped plots. Lots of yearlings, 2.5 and 3.5-year-old bucks as well. However, I was holding out for a buck 4.5 years old or older, and they are few and far between. During last light, a mature bully buck I've recognized made his way into the plot, did the lip curl, and then walked up to the cedar scrape tree. And as they say, he didn't go 20. 10 points, 18-inch inside spread, 190 pounds dressed. Thanks for watching another Habitat Solutions 360 LLC video. Be sure to click like and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of my newer content. Good luck and good habitat.